Alright, so today I want to talk about BatGirl because she's totally awesome and we don't really see enough of her. So I'm gonna do just that. So per usual, let's recap their episode that I'm featuring today and then we'll dig up some more Easter eggs about it afterwards. Alright, let's go.
Yeah, so this tale starts off with Bruce Wayne and his young ward, Dick Grayson, going to the opera, which should be a pretty fancy night. They will be going with Commissioner Gordon, Chief O'Hara, and Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara, whom will be Bruce Wayne's date for the night, because she just came back from college. So, she needs to really kind of unwind, let her hair down, and I guess an opera is the best place for that. But treachery most foul! As she goes home to get ready, she gets kidnapped by the Penguin! That cursed villain! He also gives Commissioner Gordon a call saying, I have your daughter! Okay, that's a horrible impersonation. But what he's saying is that, here's my plan, man. I'm gonna marry your daughter, so when I'm your son-in-law, I will be able to have immunity from prosecution from any crime that I do, man. So it's like a pretty good idea for me. Is that how the law works? If you're in someone's family, you can get away with anything? Well, I know that's how politics works, but I thought local law was a little tougher than that. I guess not. So now that he has his bride kidnapped, he has to kidnap a minister to perform the wedding ceremony, right? Only makes sense. Except they accidentally nab Bruce Wayne's butler, Alfred, and Alfred activates his emergency belt buckle bat call signal. He's taken back to the lair, which is actually just the apartment next door to Barbara's, so it's all pretty convenient. Right, so at this point, Batman and Robin are on the way to follow Alfred's bat buckle signal thing to save Alfred and Barbara, the damsel in distress. Or is she a damsel? Holy twist, Batman! She totally escapes the apartment, goes back to her apartment, and goes into her Batgirl cave. She's got her costume, she gets suited up, she goes back and fights the Penguin and his henchmen just in time for Batman and Robin to show up as well. And they're all punching penguins in the face. The day is saved. It's all good, right? Well, kind of wrong. So Batgirl already took off. The Penguin came too and knocked out Batman and Robin. So now they're the ones who are totally the damsels in distress. The Penguin wants to take them to his second lair to perform the wedding ceremony and all that. So how is he going to transport a bunch of unconscious people? Well, he puts them in these giant sacks and throws them out the window. Like they're like on the fifth story, man. He just tosses these unconscious people out. Luckily, there's a truck at the bottom with some mattresses in the back so they all land safely in it. Like holy crap, like that plan could go south so quick. By sheer luck, they all land in the back of this van and are transported safely to the second layer. So Batgirl follows them in her Batgirl cycle, which isn't the most original name for it, but it follows every Bat stupid thing there. Bat name of things, in the show. And holy turning tables, Batman. Batgirl busts in the lair to save Batman and Robin. What she kinda does, she gets them down off of their easily escapable trap that they weren't easily escaping from. And while Batman and Robin are beating the living crap out of Penguin and his henchmen, Batgirl has a heart-to-heart with Alfred. He knows who she is, really. And she's like, don't tell anyone. And he's like, yeah, okay. So Batgirl goes back into the bag of where the mannequin of her was, so nobody knows that she was missing the whole time and that she's actually Batgirl. Because when the Penguin's henchmen put the mannequin of her in the body bag, when they originally transported her body to the other layer, they actually thought that was a person. Like, I'm pretty sure you can tell the difference between a mannequin and a human being, but I digress. And then Batman, quote unquote, saves her, and this time the Penguin and his henchmen aren't getting up for round 3. So yeah, pretty much the day is saved, and a brand new door is open for some more crime fighters in Gotham. So yeah, that's where this fantastic tale ends.
So yeah, pretty decent. Not as campy and as wild as some of the other Batman episodes previously have been. This one was pretty tame in that regard, but I guess that's usually how it goes when you have an introduction episode, so you can only get so wild with some other stuff because you got all the focus on this new character. And what a character she is! And she is fairly similar to Bruce Wayne in that she has that kind of dual life. She pretends to be the damsel in distress, someone who can't fight back, to kind of protect her identity as Batgirl, who can absolutely kick your ass if you piss her off enough. Kind of like how Bruce Wayne showboats the whole kind of playboy millionaire lifestyle, and he can kick your ass too. So to see Yvonne Craig as Batgirl doing this was pretty awesome, and we gotta consider that we're talking like the 1960s here. Really not a whole lot of women who are kick-butt characters, but this is when we're starting to see that notion really ramp up. Women were getting bigger roles, although they were still technically the sidekicks in shows like The Avengers, Get Smart, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which did have its own spin-off, The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., so that was actually a pretty good win in that regard. So to see Batgirl hop in at this time, it really makes sense, and it really kind of keeps that momentum going. But that's in television. If you're talking like, let's say, comic books, well, you had Lois Lane, who wasn't a secretary or anything. She was a hard-hitting journalist who really fought for what she wanted. Of course, you've had Wonder Woman, who was a sidekick to nobody. Heck, even one of Batman's top nemesis was Catwoman. And this would also kind of help really spark a whole bunch of Batman notions in the future. The whole Bat family, like, my God, there are so many Batman-trained vigilantes. More Robins, Nightwing, etc. So this was a good jumping off point to really start a whole lot of storytelling and world building. So the episode itself, yeah, sure, it had its silly points, but that's just the way the series is. It was really awesome to see Batgirl included. Would have been pretty cool to see her get her own spin-off series, but tis what it is, right? And if you haven't seen the episode, I suggest you do, because the whole series is so ridiculous. But other than that, let's see what else we can find out about this episode and stuff.
Well, alright, so let's talk about our friend here. But first, let's go back a little further back before she was introduced. You got the Batman, you got Robin, you got them wearing tights and hanging out a lot together. And some people thought there was a little bit more kind of going on between these two male characters who like to wear tights and hang out. So DC Comics decided to kind of quell that whole speculation, and they created a love interest for Batman. Her name? Kathy Kane, the Batwoman. She debuted in Detective Comics number 233 in 1956, and they figured it was pretty good now that Batman had someone to kind of be sweet with. But that kind of left Robin as the third wheel, and DC Comics figured, yeah, maybe we should give Robin a little kind of someone to be sweet on as well. And so they did. So they introduced the niece of Kathy Kane. Her name is Betty Kane, and she is Batgirl, Batwoman's sidekick and Robin's new best friend. So this original Batgirl was first introduced in 1961 in Batman number 139, and then for a while they kind of had this Batman family kind of going on, but it went nowhere. Batwoman and Batgirl kind of really didn't do much of anything. They were just kind of there. So in 1964, DC Comics was like, you know what, let's screw it, man. Let's just get rid of those characters. They're pretty silly anyway. So they did. Again, just back to the dynamic duo. But a lot of young girls were reading Batman comics and, well, other comics as well, and we're also watching the Batman TV show. So everybody involved in the TV show and comics were like, you know what, we need another female Bat character. Let's retool the Batgirl character and make her something interesting, which of course they did. So DC Comics completely recreated the character. It's no longer Betty Kane. She's no longer just someone in the background. She is now Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's daughter. She also has a PhD in library science. I never heard of that before, but she has it. She runs the Gotham City Public Library. She's pretty career driven, and she's a pretty awesome crime fighter. So she was introduced in Detective Comics number 359 in 1967. So the producers of the Batman TV series were like, yeah man, our show's kind of needing some new breath into it, some new blood. They're like, oh well, they created that new Batgirl character. That sounds like a pretty hip idea. We can have her on the show. So what they did was actually create a really short kind of film, like a 7-minute little pilot of Batgirl, which was the same story of her comic debut. She went to a Halloween party dressed as a female Batman. That's where she got her awesome costume, and she had to team up with Batman to fight the villain, the Killer Moth. So network executives were pretty excited about this character, and they added her into season 3 of Batman with the hopes that, you know, she would get her own spin-off series. Unfortunately, she did not get her own spin-off series, and well, the Batman show was cancelled after this season, so you only really had one season of Batgirl as a live character on TV, but you obviously still had her in the comic books. Her character developed quite a bit. In the infamous story Batman the Killing Joke from 1988, Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, was shot in the back by the Joker, actually in the spine, and it paralyzed her from the waist down, so she obviously couldn't fight crime anymore, unfortunately. So she became a new character, no longer Batgirl. She became the Oracle. With her library background and her detective background, she became the greatest researcher of anything ever, and was basically a third eye for Batman and all of his supporting characters of crime fighters. A pretty powerful and intelligent character she was. And while she was the Oracle, there were other characters who took over the mantle of Batgirl. So, But then DC Comics does what DC Comics does a few times actually. Yeah, they've completely rebooted their own universe, essentially restarting from scratch more or less. And in the world of Barbara Gordon, she was no longer paralyzed and she was reintroduced as Batgirl. So that was pretty awesome. So in the realm of Batgirl in live action appearances, of course this episode was her first live action appearance and it was pretty awesome. She also lasted the season before the show was cancelled. She has made appearances in a bunch of DC cartoons, most notably Batman, the animated series, and of course the web series Super Best Friends Forever, where and I absolutely love it because it's so cheesy and campy and ridiculous by design, where she's best friends with Supergirl and Wonder Girl fighting crime. It would take a while until we see another live appearance of Batgirl. That was all the way down in 1997 in the infamous Batman and Robin movie, which, oh my god. I've seen that movie so many times just because it's so ridiculous. Like, it's a train wreck of a movie, but you can't stop watching it. And in that movie, you had Alicia Silverstone taking the role of Batgirl, where she was able to join the Bat crime fighting family just because. We did see Barbara Gordon again, this time the wheelchair-bound Barbara as the Oracle in the 2002 TV series Birds of Prey, where she was portrayed by Dinah Meyer, and in season 3 of Titans. Really amazing show, you really should watch it. But Barbara Gordon did show up again in a wheelchair, this time as the new commissioner of Gotham City Police Department. Quite the promotion. We won't have to wait very long for another live action Batgirl appearance because in 2022 there is scheduled to be a Batgirl movie. This time Batgirl will be played by Leslie Grace, so it should be pretty good. So this is a character I've actually liked quite a bit. You don't really get to see her a lot back in the day, kind of hither and thither, but hopefully we do get to see her some more. But until then, we'll just have to watch the same Bat channel over again for some reruns. And yeah, so I guess other than that, that's that. Right on, and there you go. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you liked it as much as I did making it. Also, feel free to check out the source material that I featured in this video. And if you want to leave a comment on anything you may have liked or things I might have missed in this, feel free to do so. Or anything else, just to say hi. That's cool too. And other than that, have a great day. Thanks.